Oh, thank you everyone for your flexibility today. Obviously that meeting I was in was not going to be over by 10:30, so but we did that. Just ended. Okay, are we let's see, are we missing anyone? Should we hold out or can we just go ahead and get started? What do you think? Good. All right. All righty. So it sounds like I wasn't with you guys last week, but it sounds like we were really focusing on the consortium meeting agenda. And there were some questions in particular about that. So we can go ahead and just focus on that for a bit here. So this is the agenda we have so far. We've got intro and welcome, blah, 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 all the usual stuff. So I guess maybe we can just focus in on the highlights, perhaps. Okay, so as we said, we wanted to really have a focal point of hearing from our LEAs about use of the ARP funds. And I know I did get to open it up and see there were some draft questions posted that we would pose in advance, correct, to our superintendents. Okay. Yep. And so was that the bulk of what folks were hoping that we could discuss last week? Sort of how are we going to frame that conversation?
Yes. And then also just finalizing the agenda so we can post it in time for the next meeting.
Okay.
I can share those questions right now.
That would be great.
Thank you, Haley.
I know Jeff had a lot of input in the document when I was looking at it. So maybe we can do that.
Can everyone see that?
I can. It's a little small, but you can also see Jeff's commentary. So 3 key questions sort of initially posed here about how our districts are prioritizing the use of the funds and the process, you know, to what extent are they being community driven in that? And, you know, how will they continue to build on that in addressing inequities generally speaking? And any strategies they intend to deploy on assisting vulnerable student populations. So I think, you know, Jeff was giving some feedback in terms of, you know, what information, you know, they might actually have to share, or how do we frame this to make sure that, you know, we get productive responses, I guess. It looks like Jeff's probably a little busy now, but maybe we can kind of.
No, I was at a school going to do the meeting, and then I'm hustling back to the office right now since it got moved. I'll be live in a few minutes, but I'm just pulling into the lot here.
No worries, no worries.
So,
did you want to speak to your thoughts on how we?
So the only point, and I go back to the conversation we had last week. It depends on what information you're looking for is how you ask the question. If you really want specifics, then you need to ask specifics. If you're looking for just broad generalities, then, you know, the questions that are on there are fine. But I know how some of the audience gets really particular around wanting to know details sometimes. So I didn't know how much you were looking, because the first question, the answer to that question is already provided in the guidance. Well, we have to do 20% for learning loss. So there's a priority, learning loss. Like you can answer the question by just reciting the guidance, or if you use the guidance, or if you ask the question within the 20% of learning loss, what are going to be your priority areas? So like you narrow it down, and then now you're really going to get someone to give a little bit more higher level detail around where we're going to target this population. We're going to use this program. So that's the only point that I was bringing up, probably with all the questions.
Yeah, so maybe we want to know less what the priorities are and more how they're addressing the priorities.
Yeah, that's probably a better way to say it.
Okay.
That's an easier way to say it. How are you planning to address the learning loss within the, you know, use of funds from the American Recovery Plan? Like that's probably a better way to ask it, Senator Lockman.
Okay. All right. That seems like a pretty easy fix. We definitely don't want to just have people all reciting what's in the guidance. We want to hear how.
And that's a fair ask, right? Mm-hmm. At this stage, they might, and to the question about community engagement, some of them are still building that out. So they might not have an answer to what the community is saying, but they can certainly speak to how are they going about gathering that information prior to the submission of their plan in August. That was the only other
Okay.
point I had at the bottom. Because I
So
haven't
maybe,
had mine. I haven't had mine yet.
okay. So maybe it's sort of like, where are you in the process of getting input from the community and what does that look
Yep.
like?
Yeah.
And, you know, to the extent that you're hearing specific things from the community, could you share that with us?
Yep. I think that's good.
Okay.
That would be that's my feedback. You're going to get a more productive answer that's going to help address some of the questions that are going to come out of the audience or out of the rest of the consortium that are more pointed about wanting details. So
Yeah.
your questions are going to push a little bit more to get more of that detail, but maybe not in the finer grain that will evolve as the plans come forward.
Okay. Okay. And then I'm looking at I think this is addressing number 3, that you think that they could just restate what they're doing with opportunity funds. Okay.
Yeah, I think, you know, those they're the same populations that are getting targeted money for opportunity funds, which is fine, because if it's like I'm doubling down on my opportunity fund work, that's great. But then it goes back to the conversation we had before. Well, then why did we give you opportunity funds? Like we worry about people seeing it as like, well, then, oh, we don't have to give money in that because you have 4 years of this money. So, you know, that was that part of that conversation that just jarred into my mind whenever we had that like 2 or 3 meetings ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, did you just add language about specific strategies? Was that added in there? I think, I'm not sure who's typing.
Not me.
We both
Kelly.
are.
Oh, you're both in there, Kelly and Haley. I didn't see which edits you just made. But I mean, I guess the alignment suggestion seems to work, I guess, like how, you know, opportunity funding is obviously one approach to vulnerable populations. Certainly, the rescue plan funds connect in with that. I guess we'd want to know, yeah, how can we get at how are districts drawing these different resources together to, you know, move the needle for these vulnerable student populations? So sort of taking it from the ARP to the bigger pot, or the, you know, the various pots that we're dealing with. I don't know if that's going to help us get a more clear answer, but maybe sort of how does this fit into efforts to address inequities, you know, how you're using opportunity funding. I'm trying to think. I mean, I'm assuming we're going around one superintendent to the next, and they will be prepared to have responded to these questions they got in advance, right? Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think to Jeff's point in his written comment, you know, we're looking for how it aligns and certainly specific examples. I think people are going to know specific examples, not general platitudes. All right, that's enough out of me. Anyone else in the room have questions or thoughts about how to frame these questions? I mean, I think they've gotten a little bit more nuanced, which should hopefully generate some meaningful brief presentations from our superintendents, and that may inspire some more questions. But
so knowing I'm among friends here, and I do see the recording lights on, so these first of all, so as I read these as a district person, if I were asked these by some people I didn't know, I would be very cautious and guarded in a way, because the way they're framed almost seems like the Reading Consortium is saying districts and charters, you're kind of accountable to us for these answers on how you are using your ARP funds. So, and I'll explain that in a little bit. And we're not accountable to the Reading Consortium on how we're using our ARP funds. The proposals are still being worked on. I don't know if any district has submitted their proposal. Maybe charters are a little more agile. I don't know, but so the top 3 priorities, Jeff, I mean, he nailed it. Everybody's going to say ventilation, learning loss, and technology, with maybe some very minor variations here, there, and everywhere. So I think that or what are your thoughts on addressing learning loss, or what are your preliminary thoughts on addressing learning loss, is probably fair, because right now we're just getting into summer number one after full pandemic year number one, right? And we're all trying some new stuff, or maybe old stuff, to try to deal with learning loss. We don't even know if what we're working on, if they're even going to come. I mean, I think that maybe my teaching and learning people have a better idea than I do, but I think it's fair to ask, what are your preliminary thoughts on addressing learning loss? What are you doing now and over the summer, with the other two funds you have? So American Rescue Plan it's out there till 2024, I think. Yeah, 2024. So we probably won't even get into some of these projects until next school year. We're still using other money for this summer. The process for input from the community, well, the requirement for ARP is that we present our tentative safe return to school plan. That's the community input. So maybe a question that is more like, are there opportunities for you to seek community input on your application, something like that? Because when you say, what was the process you used to get input from your community, that's saying you're accountable to me for this answer, for something that is not a requirement. So I think a more encouraging question, are there opportunities? Somebody might say, well, we're doing it for our plan, and then they might think of something they can do to get more input. Typically the deadlines on this grant and the amount of stuff we have to do to create this application is so huge and so fast that, it's one of those things where, yeah, everybody wants community input, but how detailed do you get on that? And then the next one, how have you and how will you continue to address inequities as exacerbated? That's another one where I'm looking at the application right now. And so if we use some of the actual language, that might be better. The minimum 20% allocation is for address learning loss through the implementation of evidence-based interventions and ensure that those interventions respond to students' social, emotional, and academic needs, and address the disproportionate impact of COVID-19 on underrepresented student subgroups. So might be something like, or what are your thoughts on how you will address the disproportionate impact of COVID-19 on unrepresented student subgroups using the ARP ESSER 3 funds? That's my thought there. Because although I believe in what's on question 3, it doesn't necessarily, now there's some other, let me go through here real quick, because I think there is something about, let me see. There's another item, this is an optional item, that says addressing the needs of children from low-income families, children with disabilities, English learners, racial and ethnic minorities, students experiencing homelessness, and foster care youth. I'm sure that 18 out of 19 districts, and I don't know how many charters, are going to say, I didn't put anything in that item because I'm addressing it in number 1, which is the 20% requirement. These grant applications, they're not the easiest things in the world to fill out. So let me see. Yeah, that's kind of what I had to say about that. So thank you.
Yeah, that's really helpful, I think. So what was it? It was how will you address disparate impact? Oh, I see, disparate impact on underrepresented students. Maybe you want to put the word disparate in there.
Address the need, or address the disproportionate impact of COVID-19 on underrepresented student subgroups.
Okay.
That's the one part. And then there's another one this is a separate item, addressing the needs of children from low-income families, children with disabilities, English learners, racial and ethnic minorities, students experiencing homelessness, and foster care youth.
Okay. Yeah, I think we just missed foster care. in our language.
I'm gonna re-listen to this recording and, finalize all the questions. So I'm not capturing every single thing,
Okay.
right?
Yes, we don't have to wordsmith it 100%, but I think that's
Who was
all
that?
that
Was-
input. Mhm.
Was that Kelly or Haley who said that?
I think that was Haley.
Haley.
Haley, I will go ahead and put them in an email to you. So you'll have.
Oh,
it.
thank you.
Mhm.
Appreciate that.
All right. Well,
Okay,
at least the last part about the items. Yeah.
yeah, no, I think that's good. I think these are becoming better questions with which to prep our school leaders, our leaders of LEAs, that will say, because I'm saying superintendents, and I know we have charter leaders also in that category who will be talking about, the deployment of the funds.
So can I just confirm who will be responding? So it'll be all of our district representatives on the consortium. And then Aaron as a charter representative. Do we have any other charter representatives?
I think we just wanted to have leaders, LEA leaders who are among our members, right? So that would be our districts and Aaron.
Okay.
Am I missing anybody? I don't think I'm missing anyone.
Isn't Margie on the Ready Consortium?
Oh, you're correct.
Yeah.
Yes, and Margie.
Okay, thank you. She represents a different
Sorry.
arm right now, but yeah, perfect.
Mhm, mhm.
And we'll send that out Monday to everybody, Monday or Tuesday to all of the leaders.
Okay.
Okay.
Give
And
them
Give
a
them time.
Did
I think
you
a
want
week.
a written, I'm sorry, did you want a
No,
written
go ahead.
response in advance, or we send these to all the LEA leaders and they share their answers at the meeting? The second point, Kelly. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think we're expecting each of you to take, let's see, if there's how many people? 6? No, 7. Right? Yeah, the expectation would be everyone would take a few minutes. So I guess that would be, it's not like you're going to be making a 10-minute presentation, because we need to leave a little time for clarifying questions.
I had charts
So-
and graphs and a long PowerPoint, but I'll
You can
Thank
feel free to send that. We'll share that with everyone to refer to as you speak. But yeah, so Kelly and Haley, let's make sure that everyone knows, and I'm sure that won't be too challenging. If they want to put up a slide, I think that's fine. I kind of doubt it, but 2 to 3 minutes, so we have time for questions. Does that sound fair? And that'll probably make this feel a lot less onerous, I hope, to say you've got 3 minutes to sit to answer all of these things in detail.
And I think to address Chuck's point, as long as we say this is so we're learning and hearing, and knowing what's going on, doesn't
Right.
seem as much like, oh, the consortium is, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Mhm. No, I mean, I think it's good to know. We don't understand. Well, some of us do, but I think that it's good to shine a light on the process that our districts have to engage with in order to access and deploy these funds. And so to me, that's helpful. It's just helpful clarity. So I think that is just fine. Okay. Anything else on this one? All right, sounds like we can go back to the agenda. All right, and I think that was the big thing. So it sounds like we don't have someone presenting on other education related initiatives. I'm a little concerned that we don't have a there yet. So I'm worried about that I'm a little worried about how fleshed out that particular piece is.
Should we remove it from the agenda?
That would be my instinct at this point. I personally don't feel I have a strong understanding of what we're going for with that. I think that's something that we could seek information on, that perhaps in written form we could share with the consortium when we have that, but it doesn't feel like we have 15 minutes worth of prepared information for folks to respond to. So I'm a little worried about expecting people to respond on the fly when we really don't even know what we're going to get. Unless anyone else has a more clear understanding of what we're going for. So it seems like maybe that's something we should back off on and figure out how to bring that in another way. And perhaps Tika has questions that she might like to pose to our LEA leaders that's related to that might get at that same thing. I just don't see it as a standalone presentation.
And that'll give us some more time
Mm-hmm.
within to have more discussions.
Yeah. Okay, great. So that one can go, I think, unless anyone has an objection to that. And then we'll spend a little time just giving folks an update on where the budget process stands, what's included, you know, how that's currently framed and what's left for that to become, you know, sort of official, and then how, you know, it'll actually be executed upon. So, you know, Matt and I can put our heads together in order to speak to that, and we'll work on that this week.
Do you want us to put a slide in that you guys can fill out, or do you want to just verbally?
Let's do that. I think it would be helpful for people to have some bullet points to follow.
Okay, so we can put the bare bones and then have you to fill it out.
Yeah, and so if you have like a draft that Matt and I can work from, we can add whatever we think needs to be added or adjust as needed. Okay, and then we'll have the path forward work group report out. And
are you able to share with us the allocation of the 10 million? So the pockets that it's going to be supporting, or the different work?
So the way that it ended up working out, and this is what we'll be speaking to in the meeting, obviously, is that we included the structures of how we expected it to be deployed. And we included everything except for the DHSS piece in budget epilogue, because all of the sort of the permanent funding, the 3 million, is in the Department of Education budget. So we sort of included the parameters there and pulled out the DHSS ones because it wasn't put in the DHSS budget. So we'll have to address that through the one-time fund. And then for the one-time fund, which is $7 million, it is it's broad. There's that short piece of language, which I think you saw.
Yes.
Which speaks to planning needing to occur with OMB and the Controller General that we honestly are already starting to work on. So there's not a final answer to present on that. I mean, our goal, of course, is to get all of the things going to varying degrees. I don't think we're picking winners and losers necessarily from within. You know, our overall recommendations, we're just trying to figure out to what scale can they each be addressed, and that has not been finalized. We just know we have $10 million to work with, and we're working through what, if anything, you know, what gets scaled back and to what degree. So there's no final answer on that, but the expectation is still that everything moves forward in some fashion with the same parameters that we set forward. It's going to be, there might be fewer seats available in terms of the early child, those types of things, but there's no, it's not all fully baked.
That is helpful. Thank you.
Okay, so work group report out. We're starting to have those meetings, which have been great and exciting. So, you know, through the week, each work group will know what they will be saying. And so that will be fun. And then we'll have public comment. So I think the agenda looks good. We're pulling that one piece. We kind of know what's happening, or we have a path to officially know what's happening in each presentation category. And what does the time add up to? I guess we're losing 15 minutes on the other initiatives, but is that put us in like still puts us over an hour, right? Sorry, I'm trying to do math fast. An hour and an hour and a half. We're still at an hour and a half. Okay.
Yep. There's some buffer time in there.
All right. Any questions on the agenda? All right. I think we are set just in the nick of time to have an agenda that can be posted before Monday or on Monday. Okay. Any work group updates? We can just go on through. I know, again, as I said, we are all having our individual meetings to prepare for the work group. So I'm not sure there are any other updates to be had, but everyone can feel free to offer any thoughts if you like. I don't think we have any brand new information other than that there's a social determinants meeting on Monday. Ray or Jeff, can you remind me one more time, isn't that going to be kind of about the ARP funds a little bit? Is that where the discussion is going to go on the 14th?
We have we're going to talk about what our path forward is. You were going to kind of lay a high level statement down, and then we were going to kind of structure that out to align it with the work that we've been doing and kind of just become more of a in practice kind of support group around
okay.
cross district collaboration. There were some other things that we had discussed. There were like four different like buckets. And we were also going to potentially have a presentation from Delaware State University.
That is confirmed.
Yep.
Oh,
So
that's what I was thinking. Oh, sorry.
yeah, yes, the Delaware State University, the trauma practices. The title eludes me, but right, we talked about it yesterday.
Yeah, Senator Lockman, I sent notes from our leadership meeting.
Yes,
I know you're busy, so I'm just calling those to your attention.
thank you. I saw them come through.
So the majority of the agenda, as Jeff has indicated, is devoted to a high level information on a cross-district collaboration that is going to roll out. And the Kim Graham, the new director of the Trauma Academy at Delaware State University, will share, make people aware of the formation and the launch of the academy, and a certificate course that is launching at Delaware State University that's focused on African-centered trauma and healing practices. So that's all. The agenda is in alignment with our one of our objectives to continue to share promising best practices and to help our community become aware of new initiatives.
Great. Okay. Awesome. All right. So I think that sounds like it'll be a good meeting. I know it'll be affirming, some the path forward for the members of that work group, and then also, having that teacher also engaged there. So if anyone from settlement or educators wants to pipe up, I don't think there's any brand new information there that we need to address. I see
is.
the funny. Yep.
There is an update regarding the developmental screening bill
Oh,
that we
good.
supported, and that was voted out of the House Education Committee on the 9th.
Good.
So it hasn't gone to full House on the floor, but that's good news. It's moving forward.
That's great. That's awesome. Okay. All
I just
right.
think we're trying, so settlement, we've requested from DOE the equity dashboard.
Mhm.
At our last meeting, we were told that we would have access to it, but then our recent email came back and stated that we can only get access to my school because I run the LEA. Part of the ESSA was to be more transparent. So we're gonna have some future conversations with DOE about gaining access to that, because by the way, the equity dashboard is every piece of data the Reading Consortium needs around the settlement and also around teachers and social determinants. DOE has the data, they're not sharing it just yet.
Okay.
They are in the middle of a redesign of that dashboard, but I'm just like,
I don't understand what you said, Aaron. You can't have access to it because what?
So there's an equity dashboard that tracks all the equity data across every LEA in Delaware.
Yes.
We were told in the settlement meeting that we could have access to it. And then we were told in the subsequent email that we can only have access to my school's data because it's only allowed for the LEAs. The data we got is only up until 2017. So it's 2015, 2016, 2017 data, which any researcher can tell you it's not actionable data that's old. This is the data that will be helpful for social determinants, for the educator work group, for settlement, because it actually shows data around all equity in the state of Delaware in schools. There's a redesign they're doing, which should be out in December. As of right now, there's nothing that is open to the public, which is stated in the ESSA plan that was submitted to the federal government, that we would have more transparency around that, and we still don't. So the data is there. No one can access it.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to talking more about that when we check in with you guys. And anything else in terms of updates that we need to talk about that we won't, I'm sure we're going to cover most of it when we do our check-ins, and then we'll be ready to talk to the public about it. So that looks good.
Senator, I just noticed one thing that we don't have on our agenda for the prior meeting is just any of the legislation that we have been supporting and the status of it.
Mhm. Oh,
Um,
yeah, I was thinking about that too, as you said. I was going to say, do we want to characterize our budget update? We can just, for the agenda, call it legislative updates. I think we'll be mostly talking about the budget, but if we want to have a couple of highlights around, at which I think makes perfect sense because we've been doing it at every meeting, where the various legislation stands that we have. I would prefer, really to focus on those that we specifically are backing,
Yep.
That we formally did that with. And opportunity to highlight a couple of others as well. So like Dawn, you mentioned you had a couple that you wanted to see highlighted, so we can certainly, make a little room for that. I think that happened kind of organically last time. People piped up about ones that were not Reading endorsed, but Reading relevant, and that we wanted to give a little update on. So yeah, let's just call it a legislative update, and we'll talk about the budget, and we can also mention the bill.
We'll be updating it right up until the meeting.
Yep, I'm sure.
Things are definitely
Yes, we
moving, which is
will.
great.
But yeah, thank you for that. Public engagement. Again, next newsletter goes out June 21st. And so always looking for ideas, can be community-based stuff, meetings that are happening and facilitated conversations. Whatever you think the Reading audience would be interested in knowing about, please send that to Haley. And if it's going out on June 21st, Haley, what is your deadline to receive that? Maybe the Friday before or even sooner?
Friday's maybe cutting a little close.
Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday would be great. That would be
Okay.
ideal.
All right. Maybe you want to send out just sort of a little email soliciting that from members saying send updates by Wednesday.
Sure.
Okay. And we are, yeah, right. We have the one feature on the 22 budget. I think in order to finalize that, we'll need to wrap up things on June 30th. So I don't think we need to rush that. Okay. And just because it's not there, I'm guessing that means that the annual report got the approval it needed across the board. Great. Okay. So progress finally. All right. I think that's the agenda for today. And let's see, I don't know that we have any members of the public. So, oh, we do have some members of the public, but if anyone would like to offer a public comment at this time for a couple of minutes, raise your hand or make some noise. And I see that, no, we're working on that. So once the session is closed, we'll be able to offer a little more meat on those bones. We just know that we have $10 million to spend. We have some parameters, but we don't have specific dollar figures attached to specific expenditures quite yet in any official way. Okay. Ray, I agree. That sounds good. Anything else? Oh, that was a private message, but anyway, Ray knows what I'm talking about. All right, I think we're good.
And then next week, we will not have a planning team meeting.
Correct. Sorry, thank you. I didn't announce that. So next week, in observance of Juneteenth, the universities are closed. So therefore, we will not be having a planning meeting. So this is it. If you have any pressing thoughts or concerns prior to our full body meeting on the 21st, you're going to need to convey those outside of the planning meeting structure. Candace, I'm going to send you a message about that separately, if that's okay with you. Okay. All right, everybody. I think we're good. Enjoy your weekends. Hopefully the sun comes out again at some point. And I'll be seeing you in meetings next week, and reach out anytime.
Bye.